Hello again. In this video, we're going to work with language and mind. We have seen that linguistics is a science, yes, that has to work with a very complex issue. And so it is divided into different branches that will focus their attention on different parts of language, different aspects. So today we're going to see one of these branches, the one called psycholinguistics. Psycholinguistics is the study of language and mind. It studies how the human mind acquires language, comprehends language, produces language, and stores language. So these are all the aspects that we're going to study in this unit. The problem is that the mind cannot be directly observed. You cannot see inside the brain how language works. So psycholinguists have to devise ways of finding out how it works. They need psycholinguistic evidence. How do they get this evidence? Well, mainly, they get the evidence from observation of spontaneous utterances and psycholinguistic experiments. Observation of spontaneous utterances means that they just listen to people talking, listen to people using the language. They just observe people without interference, without intervening. They just observe how people talk. But there is another way of obtaining data, and that is the psycholinguistic experiments. In this case, you intervene. You're not a mere observer. You devise an experiment and you get the subject into a laboratory and ask him questions or put this subject in a situation in which he will use the language that you need to study. Because the problem with the observation of spontaneous utterances is that to spot the real issue that you want to study, the real piece of language, the real aspect, yes, it's very, very difficult. You have to go through lots and lots of samples. Do you understand? You have to observe a lot of people waiting for them to use the kind of language that you want to study. The advantage of this observation of spontaneous utterances is that it's more natural, so as the experimenter is not intervening, you will get more faithful results. In a psycholinguistic experiment, yes, you can focus on the particular piece of language that you want to study because you devise your experiment to provoke that kind of language. So it's more to the point and it's easier to study. Now, what is the problem? Well, as I said, with spontaneous utterances, there are many different factors which have to be taken into account when utterances are analyzed. The context into which the speaker was, situation, and as I said, you had to analyze a lot of samples, a lot of samples to get what you really want. In the psycholinguistic experiment, this is easier. You just have the subject there and provoke, yes, the subject to use the language that you want to study and to see how he reacts. But we have another problem here, a problem called experimental paradox. The more carefully the experiment is devised so as to limit the variables, the more subjects are put into an unnatural situation in which they are likely to behave oddly. So this means that the response that you get in the experiment will not be really natural. The subject knows that he is being observed, and so he will behave differently, not naturally. Okay, he will behave oddly. And so, yes, the whole thing is spoiled because you don't really know if that is a real piece of language that this subject would use in real life, or if he has changed it, yes, because of your intervention as an experimenter. So as you see, both methods have their disadvantages. So what do? How do we solve this problem? Well, what you do is you use both methods. Yes, both methods have to be used, and when the results coincide, this is a sign that progress is being made. So you collect data with both methods, and then you compare them. Yes, and from there you get, yes, a proper conclusion. Okay, now I would like you to watch the video Language Acquisition 1 and yes, answer these 3 questions here. Okay, so pause the video now and copy the questions. It's just 3 questions. And then please watch the video, answer these questions on your own, and upload them in the forum provided. Okay? Right. So that's all for this video and for now.